Okay. Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, November 6th. Um, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Jody, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Happy to. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. And so just to start off the meeting, we'll start with the room. Anybody in here have any public comment before we start the meeting? What's that? Well, really, it would be you buying lunch because it'd be your tax dollars, but it's up to you, I guess. Anybody on the phone or Zoom whatever it's called, that would like to weigh in? Okay, thank you. We'll start with the consent agenda. Is there any discussion or any changes to the consent agenda?
No, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And then, is there anything you want to say about the green light before we get started? Do the proclamation first, and then you can chat about it. I don't know if everybody knows about this, but there's a new holiday, but it's a way to support our veterans of turning your flags green by using a bulb or any kind of what I'm working on for the big flag is maybe some of that holiday wrapping that you can see through to make your flags green to promote veterans. So we have a proclamation here. Whereas the residents of Crook County have great respect, admiration, and the utmost gratitude for all the men and women who have selflessly served our country and this community in the armed forces. And whereas the contributions, sacrifices of those who served in the armed forces have been vital to maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas Crook County seeks to honor individuals who have made countless sacrifices for freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas veterans continue to serve our community in the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, religious groups, civil service, and by functioning as county veteran service officers in 29 states to help fellow former service members access more than $52 billion in federal health, disability, and compensation benefits each year. Approximately 200,000 service members transition to civilian communities annually. An estimated 20% increase of service members will transition to civilian life in the near future, and studies indicate that 44 to 72% of service members experience high levels of stress during transitions from military to civilian life. And active military service transitioning from military service are at a high risk of suicide during their first year after military service. And the National Association of Counties encourages all counties, parishes, and boroughs to recognize Operation Greenlight for veterans. And whereas Crook County appreciates the sacrifices of our United States military personnel and believes specific recognition should be granted, therefore be it resolved that with designation as a green light for Veterans County, Crook County hereby declares November 4th through Veterans Day, November 11th, 2024, a time to salute and honor the service and sacrifices of our men and women in uniform, transitioning from active service. Therefore, be it further resolved that in observance of green light, Crook County encourages citizens in a patriotic tradition to recognize the importance of honoring all those made immeasurable sacrifices to preserve freedom by displaying green light in a window of their place of business or residence from November 4th through the 11th, 2024. Katie, you want to speak to it a little bit?
I can briefly. So we
First of all, I'd like to thank the commissioner's support for this proclamation, as well as for the Veteran Service Office in Crook County. We have an excellent team that is, it was mentioned that we have veteran service officers in counties all over the country. And ours is doing fantastic work getting our veterans in Crook County connected with benefits. So we've used this as an opportunity to both honor and recognize veterans and encourage our community members to do the same, and to let our veterans know and their families that there are resources for them free of charge. We're hearing more and more that veterans are getting calls and they're being solicited by organizations that would charge to help veterans file benefits, which there are organizations that do that, but our county offices can do that exact same work just as effectively for free. So we're really encouraging veterans. A lot of times we'll get calls first, thankfully, but trying to promote that those benefits should be available for them free of charge. So I have a couple bags for each of you commissioners with a green light. If you already have one, you can share it with a friend. We did buy out Bi-Mart, so there are not currently green light bulbs at Bi-Mart, but there are green rope lights, so that works as well if folks are looking for them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katie.
All right. Amy?
Wait,
Oh, wait, hold on.
so,
Sorry.
do we need to make a motion for this proclamation? I'm assuming, Eric?
Probably ideally. So just a
Okay.
motion to adopt the proclamation as read by Commissioner Crawford.
I make a motion to adopt the proclamation of supporting Operation Green Light for veterans.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All righty. Now you're up, Amy.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Is this, I've never been to a commission meeting before. Is this the,
Yeah, that's the spot.
instruct me if I
So,
do something incorrectly?
Yeah, you're doing good.
I believe we have some imagery that to pull up. Thank you. So I get to be in front of you all today because to talk a little bit about a new development we're building in Prineville. Our nonprofit is called Thistle and Nest, and I will talk a little bit about that in our program after the exciting part, which is more about the homes we'll be building. Yeah. We should have done a landscape flyer, I guess. So we are developing 20 homes that is part of the Solace community. They're located just off of McLaughlin Road behind Ray's Food Place. The site plan you can kind of see there, their alley access entry. All of them are shared wall townhome style. They have covered parking, and one side of the townhome is a 3-bedroom, the other side is a 2-bedroom. They have fenced yards, and all the covered parking is also screened, so not visible from the street. The homes are high quality built. They come with all the appliances except for washer and dryer. They're incredibly energy efficient. What we're building right now is Earth Advantage certified platinum. And we're currently researching grants for solar for these units as well. So the buyers of these affordable homes will have low energy bills or no energy bills. The homes are going to be sold to those making less than 80% of the area median income. And thanks to a partnership with Heart of Oregon's Youth Build program, we're targeting 2 of those homes to be sold to less than 50% of the area median income. And I think we might have an image with the area, what that is. Okay. Okay. I can talk about that if we can't find it. The effective pricing of these homes after our subsidy that we've received through the state of Oregon we anticipate to be between $185,000 and $225,000. We're going to start building in March and anticipate all the homes to be complete by June of 2026. So now a little bit about our nonprofit. We are Central Oregon based at this time, and we use a community land trust model. So, yeah. If you're not familiar with what that is, basically it means our nonprofit obtains land, we develop housing on it, and we retain the land in perpetuity. We sell only the home, so this can be thought of similar to maybe a condo. The homeowner owns their home and leases the land underneath. These homes will not have an HOA fee, and the land lease fee is pretty low. It's only $50 a month. This model of housing has been around in the United States for well over 100 years. So it's a time-tested, proven model. We're not reinventing the wheel on this one. The land lease that the buyers have has a deed restriction in it. So the homes are sold with the shared equity formula upon sale up to the next buyer, which ensures that they will be affordable in perpetuity, not just for the first sale or the first few sales. Our homes are targeted towards the local workforce. And I would say the biggest hurdle besides for the income qualification that you have to be under 80% of the area median would be that buyers need to qualify for a home loan. So these folks who we're putting in our homes now in our Bend development have generally had great work history. They've been really responsible. They have good credit and very low debt. So they've been pretty awesome with their finances, and our home buyer ready. There's just not an option for them that is affordable. So we're pretty excited to bring this community to Primeville next year, and I can answer any questions if you guys have them.
So I met Amy at Food Insecurity and she gave her presentation and I found it very interesting. And so this is why she's here today. Would you kind of explain a little bit about the down payment assistance that also is available?
Yep. So the way we structure our home sales is that we actually sell them for the market value. We'll dive into that a little deeper as we start building our homes and get a pre-appraisal. But the example I can give you are from our townhomes in Bend. They're appraising for about $400,000 right now. We used the money that we received from the state to buy that down and sell it for an affordable, effective price by offering a zero interest silent down payment assistance loan. In this case, that would buy the home down from 400 to, let's say, 200. Those loans are put in as placeholders, essentially. No payments are ever due. They do not accrue interest, and a new loan is issued to a subsequent buyer. But what it allows us to do is develop a larger amount of homes like these without impacting the appraisal value of the surrounding neighborhood.
Thank you.
Well, I think one of the main reasons you're here is that we don't have enough people signed up to get
Exactly.
these homes. And we need to get the word out in the community. If people know people that are employees and people that are working in our community that are having a hard time finding a home, to spread the word. And I think that's one of what I was most excited about, is because this is a federal project, right? And so
We actually receive only state funds,
Oh,
no
okay.
federal HUD funds.
okay, but it's open to anybody.
But
Oh,
it-
oh,
And I would
absolutely.
rather have people in Crook County have these homes than have other folks from outside come in to move into these homes, at least as much as we possibly can,
at,
to
at,
take care of the people that live here.
at the time you had one Prineville person on the waiting list.
Yeah, we have a
We were
couple more
trying to
now.
make them
Yeah.
all Prineville people. So do you
Yeah.
have more on the list?
We have a couple more Primeville folks on the wait list now.
Okay.
And as I'm sure you guys are aware, we cannot make an absolute local requirement
Sure.
for fair housing, but we can target our outreach, which is what we're trying to do right now.
And I was thinking about your teacher that you brought before as an example, Katie, at the planning commission. And in fact, one of the things we did was tell Amy, maybe you need to go to the school district. So it did stay in the back of my mind, but
Yeah.
yes. So anyone that you know in the area that this will apply to, it would be really great if you could contact Amy and let's get Prineville in these homes.
And I brought extra flyers and also
Perfect.
some little cards if no one wants to carry a flyer around. Can leave them on the front
That'd be really
desk by
great.
the entry. Thank you guys for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
We are really glad that you
Very
could come
excited.
today, Amy. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
All right, Jody?
Good morning. I'm Jody Fleck, resident from Post, here on behalf of the Crook County Republican Central Committee. So you guys have the letter that I sent, but I'll touch on a few things. One of the things that the Republican Party's been working on is trying to get all the PCP slots filled in every county. And there's only 2 counties in the state that have 100% elected PCPs. And that is Crook County and Baker County. PCPs can be appointed after the election, but only the elected PCPs get to vote on officers within that county. So the next closest county that we have is Malheur County, has 57% PCPs, but they just appointed several in the last couple weeks. So Crook County has 85 PCPs, and currently we are meeting at the Prineville Funeral Home, and our building, that room, we've kind of outgrown it. It gets pretty crowded in there if we have a speaker or anything happening that really interests people, the room gets filled. So November 19th will be our organization meeting where we elect our officers. We had already checked with Bowman and it was booked up. We had checked with the library and they were booked up. And so we checked with the fairgrounds and Carrie Foster is available. And we were asking the court if the fees for the use of that room could be waived. Although we are partisan, we are the Crook County Republicans, we also welcome when we have our meetings, anybody to come to our meetings. In fact, we have a couple of gentlemen. One is a constitutional party member who comes quite often to our meetings and is allowed to speak. We have another gentleman who is a Democrat that comes to our meetings and brings us lots of information, and we welcome him when he comes also. So even though this is partisan, we are an inclusive party with, we don't lock anybody out of our meetings. So the elections, any registered Republican in the county can run for office. They only have to have been a Republican for at least 180 days. But only the elected PCPs have the vote to vote for those officers.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to, and if it was the Democrats here, I would do the exact same thing. I think it's good to have strong political parties in the community. And
I agree, but I also think, and like I say, this, Jody, this is not against you because I'm a Republican. I guess maybe I'm in a nonpartisan position, but I feel it kind of opens the door for us. So I think you will find a resolution soon to this, but I can't support the county doing this.
And so it's just because it's a partisan group,
Basically, yeah. And
even
so,
though the group is active in the
Yes.
county and
totally am on board with you, but I just feel as a president, it is not something that we as the county should start to do.
so the way I see it is it's pretty similar to the Cattlemen's Association because they are cattlemen, but anybody can go and enjoy and hear what they have to say. And that would be my reason to say yes, because it's the same as any other organization that would come to us. That just because it's Republicans versus people that own cows.
No, I get what you're saying. I also am very aware of our budget at the fairgrounds. And I'm the one that did a budget presentation here recently. And again, we're opening a door, not that I am not totally for you, and I think a resolution will be found for you soon. I just don't feel that as the county, we can support it. I support it individually. I agree with what you're saying, but as the county, I don't feel this is a step we need to take.
What do you think, Brian?
And I agree with Susan.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
sure.
I'm sorry, Joe.
And,
all right.
and I'm a Republican too, but I just feel like
It just-
this isn't what we should move forward with, because we take it out of our general fund to reimburse the fairground. And it's everyone's, and so I think we need to get some arms around that
Yeah,
before we start
yes,
going
thank
down
you.
that path.
Okay.
But
Okay,
Thank you just the same.
thank you, and thank you for coming, Jody. We really appreciate it. We
Yep.
encourage you.
Alrighty, now on to John with the waiver of fee.
Commissioners, we got a public records request late last week with a request for a fee waiver or reduction on Monday. I assume this is a time-sensitive matter and the commissioners wanted to hear it, so I apologize for late addition to the agenda. Thank you, Sarah. This request was from Justin Alderman from the Prineville Review. It was for the meeting activity data from the county's Zoom account for the period of June 1st through November 21st of this year, or sorry, November 1st of this year. He was given an estimate, which requires a deposit of 1.5 hours of IT staff time, which comes out to $172.50. In response to that, when I gave him the estimate, that's when he asked for the fee waiver or request. I think he mostly is taking issue with the estimate of time. I spoke with Chelsea. Mr. Alderman compared it to a similar request he'd sent to the school board. It sounds like it's not really apples to apples. We have limited number of accounts, but a lot of users is my understanding. And so we aren't able to just pull the Fair Board meeting specifically. It has to go be sorted through. Speaking with IT, that it would need to be pulled and then validated, and it might take some time. Staff has not done a request like this before, so she's not totally, dialed in on exactly how long it would take. These are estimates, so if I said we assumed an hour and a half, it only took a half an hour. The requester will be refunded that extra money they put down for the deposit. We've done fee waivers and reductions before. It's up to the county courts or the Board of Commissioners discretion. It is a totality of the circumstances test, which are fun. You get to look at everything. There are some relevant factors that are often mentioned. I think some of the most important ones here, Mr. Alderman is a reporter. This information, the ultimate test is if it's in the public's interest to approve the fee waiver or reduction. Part of that test is, will the requester disseminate this information out to the public? He's doing this for, I assume, a report for his website, which would definitely satisfy that factor. One other thing that might be worth considering in this instance is the aggregate effect of numerous public records requests by this requester. He has requested other public records requests from us before. The ones that I've handled have been very small, de minimis, so there hasn't been a charge. I know Eric has handled at least one or two. This request on its own is very modest, and I don't think this approving the reduction or waiver here would be an issue, but it's something to keep an eye on if this happens, every week for us to coming down here. But again, it's up to your discretion. You can either deny the request, you can approve it in whole and basically waive the charge or anything in between. So you could, maybe cap it at $50 if you wanted to, or whatever in the board's discretion thought was the most wise. Your decision needs to be reasonable based on the totality of the circumstances.
Yeah, I'm fine. Just waiving the fee.
I'm not.
Well,
I guess I'm
I'm
tight.
too.
I'm not. And I think Brian, I get that it's gonna go out into the general public, and there's nothing that I want to hide from the general public at all. But I feel that we need to set, again, another precedent here. So that's where I'm coming in on this. When I first became a commissioner, we had a discussion. I have nowhere where it was about that you guys were overburdened with work and that we needed to put this fee on. And this was the basis of this. And at that time, I just feel that we should address everyone the same. So do you feel that there should be an exception of a press and maybe we do the $50? Let's say I'm willing to maybe go that way, but I don't want to set a precedent that, oh, he's with the press, oh, he's whatever, because that was what first came on board when I was a commissioner, and that's what I felt we should kind of hold up.
Well,
So
so
where do we draw the line, I guess,
Yeah.
is my question, because it just goes back and forth. And then when somebody, you don't do it now, then he's angry and upset. And, you just go back and forth. So it's easier for me to just draw the line. And if our rates are absurd, then let's monitor them. Let's take the time that we do. If it doesn't amount to the 172 or whatever, then give him some refund. But I want to be, have a policy and stick with the policy, even though we have the latitude to do differently. We have these quite often, and we run into this thing. This isn't the first time.
well, I think there's a bigger conversation, and I think the conversation should be that if there's legal review and it's really complicated, I think that's when we should start looking at charging. But if it's just asking for a pretty quick, clicking of a few buttons, that's where I think we need to loosen the grip and just allow those things to go out and be taken care of. And that's, I think we should look at them. I mean, I don't think we need to, because I think we need to do more research, but I don't think today we should come up with a completely new system. But I think our system is pretty aggressive when a lot of other places, and it sounds like the school district was not exactly the same, but the school district had a similar request and they just said, we'll have somebody take care of that and send it to you. And so I just want to, what I'm concerned about is that we're being too stringent. I mean, if Eric and John have to dive in and look at, what can be released and what's not released, that's one thing, but I don't think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about an employee spending some time putting together a little package and sending it out. And I think that's just more public service and having good service when you come to the county. And, we're not talking about sensitive material. I think when you're talking about sensitive material, then you need to be more, I think we need to make sure we're not putting the taxpayers in jeopardy by releasing things that could come back and put us in put us or their tax dollars in a bad spot. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about something that's really simple, not simple, that's not a fair comment, but it's not sensitive data, and it's going to somebody to put it out to the public. And I think in general, and maybe we come up again, I don't think we need to figure that out right now. I think we should have a conversation sooner than later. Everything under $250. We just, is that the level that's the right level to share information? I don't know what that number is. I think we could have a discussion and work with the attorneys and staff and figure out what that time is. But I think we have an opportunity here today because it is pretty low amount and it's not sensitive material to just release it. But that's
If I can
just
if I can add to your
It's a
comments.
Zoom account and he wants it from June 1st through November 1st. So why is that not available? Is that our problem because it is a Zoom account and it should be readily available to the public? Is that a fault on our part?
No, it's asking for the data from the account. So you pull the data and it shows who was at the meetings, how long the meetings were and a bunch of data like that. And so that's not, you have to be able to have access to the account to pull that information. Reminder, this is still the estimate, but to Commissioner Crawford's point, you do need to look at the burden on the county in fulfilling this request to the public interest. And so the burden on this one is not great. It doesn't require staff time. It doesn't require attorney time. And so it would be IT staff time. It might only be a half an hour. So that's not a significant burden on the county. The benefit to the public to getting this information out in an article, I think would kind of weigh pretty strong on the other side. One option, I guess, if we want to try to be creative, again, this is an estimate, is we could, instead of charging the IT rate, we could just charge the lowest rate for staff time to fill public records requests, which it was 20. Is it 25 now or is it still 20?
Well, I think the staff, it might be $40 or it might be 60 or 65. I don't remember. The fees are established by the Board of Commissioners as part of the county's fee schedule.
And we just did that, I know,
Yep.
when I first came on.
So I'm afraid I don't remember what the lowest level of staff research time.
I should also add into the record, I guess, Mr. Alderman's basis for the fee waiver request, just so I can get that on the record. Let me just read out aloud what he said. So the cost issue aside, which I believe is still may be a wider issue, I hereby request a fee waiver as the information being sought goes directly to the operations of government and the conduct of public officials related to a matter of current public interest. The Prineville Review is a general interest news publication that also has the means to disseminate information to the public, is seeking this information as part of an ongoing story of public interest related to the operations and conduct of government, and for which the Prineville Review is Crook County's only non-subscription, free and publication of record. And then there's some case law cited there. So Commissioner Hummer, I get what you're saying about precedent, and this is 100% your guys' decision. But with the factors here, this definitely would be in the public interest, and the burn in the county is not severe. And Eric, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the requester would only have a claim to the Attorney General, a cause of action, if we just flat out deny the request. I think if we approve it in part or in whole, I don't think he has a claim.
Yeah, so I will echo what John said. The standard is the local public body can waive the fee if it finds that waiving the fee is in the public interest, and the public interest, as he observed, is the totality of the circumstances. So you have a great deal of flexibility there. You cannot be arbitrary. You cannot be capricious. You can't say, well, we're not going to grant the fee because it's Wednesday. But if you act reasonably and come to a conclusion based on something which would not be immediately left out of court, you have all the flexibility in the world.
Well, it sounds like we have more people that want to waive the fee than those that don't want to waive the fee.
Well, I'm
But-
thinking, what if we did a credit of $50 towards this? And we charge the lowest, whatever your new public records fee is. We don't charge IT staff time. We charge public records staff time, and we limit that to that we will give a $50. And that, what do you think?
I just think just let it rip. I mean, I think we need to look into this and have a more open situation where we're.
What happens the next time when it comes and it's now $450?
That's where I think we need to have a deeper conversation of a level where we're willing to release it. But then I think that gives these guys the ability to make those decisions without bringing it to a court meeting. And when it does become a larger, or a commission meeting, when it does become a larger situation, then we're protected to be able to have a conversation and change that. But I think we're doing a service, not a disservice to the public, by being more open and more willing to share smaller, like John said, pretty nominal things that we can just get done, get out and stop. I think that even more doesn't waste their time, because they don't have to prepare and get it on the court agenda or commission agenda and do all these things. But I think today is not the day to figure out that number. I think what I'm saying is today, let's let this one go, and then we can decide as a group at a work session, what that number we're comfortable with is time wise and different things. But that's my opinion. So
Commissioner McGowan, I would caution against the $50 credit. There's a chance, even if we don't do anything, that the request only takes a half an hour, which means they would only be charged for, half of $85, which would not even amount to $50. So I think one option would maybe be to charge the minimum amount for staff time and cap it at 1 hour. And if it's less than that, then it would be, so that would be whether that's $20, $25 or $40 an hour, that would be the max you would have to pay.
So we cap it at 1 hour.
Cap it at 1 hour at the
Minimum
lowest.
Public thing. And that's what we would credit towards it. Or basically, that's what we're giving.
That's what we would be charging
Charge.
to produce the documents.
I'm good with that. That'd be our cost.
And this wouldn't prohibit us in the future, if we get other fee waiver requests, to considering those on their own merits. We're not bound by this
Okay.
for future decisions.
Okay, can you come up with a motion that says that again for me?
I'll try. I would recommend a motion to reduce the estimated fee for Justin Alderman's public records request to be capped at 1 hour of staff time and at the lowest rate in our fee schedule for public records production.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
No,
All those in favor?
I,
All those opposed?
you.
Aye.
Okay.
And I think maybe part of that is that I think, you know, sooner than later, let's have a discussion about where we are, about the possibility of putting a dollar number on something that we're allowed, you know, allow the public to get information and where we want to be formed and have to deal with it.
Yeah, and versus cap on the financial aspect of it, maybe on who we release it to. Maybe it's some news media we don't charge.
Yeah,
or
or somebody.
something of that nature,
Yes.
because we get a lot of these.
I just don't want to, I just don't like opening the door.
Yeah, and I don't either, and so I want to close that.
Yes, and maybe even on the newspaper thing, we look at what their subscriber rate is. How many subscribers do they have?
I think that would be super dangerous. I think you would want to say if it's for profit or not for profit.
I mean,
I
I
think-
think it's great because he provides the public information for no cost, but what if only one person's reading it? Do we give him a $500 credit?
Again, I think it should be for news media, not, we shouldn't specifically get into who that news media is.
I
think it should
can
be-
say, well, let's debate this at another
Yeah.
date when we go through this, and
Yeah,
so we can keep.
sounds good. Trying to save us money here. Okay. Thank you.
Great. All right,
Sure.
anything else before, Will, do you have a report? Oh, I'm good. Susie,
Oh,
Brian?
I'm totally good.
I'm good.
Okay,
It's
any
there.
public comment before we move on? In the room?
Would like to just.
Yeah. Please come to the mic and say your name and.
Justin Alderman, interim managing editor for the Primeville Review. I did want to just clarify, it was brought to our attention by county council that there is numerous, or at least 2 Zoom accounts. We were only aware of one. And I did clarify in particular the time range we were looking for. We were in particular looking for information specific to the Crook County Fair Board. However, the request still in itself was not being limited. And I hope county council, and I think in this case, based on the statement earlier, may have misinterpreted that follow-up to kind of make the request more complex. Originally, we were told, though, between the accounts, each month would involve an export and generation of a report. I've done these reports from business Zoom accounts before, and they literally take seconds. And that was our reason for saying that generating these reports, even if there's 5 of them, even times 2, if there's from 2 different Zoom accounts maintained by the county, is a matter of minutes.
So you'll
And
be,
so that was
Right.
our reason of believing the costs to the county are extremely negligible. And honestly, the county is spending way more money in this case, just having this hearing, I believe, for taxpayers than it would be to simply just waive the fees. And again, I think this request is, again, very clearly in the public interest because we're providing information and seeking information related to public meetings issues for members of the public. And that is one of our most fundamental duties in our role in the news media. Thank you.
Any other input from the room? Anybody online? Okay, on to the overtime. The Crook County Board of Commissioners will now meet in executive session under ORS 192-6602A to consider the employment of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed to not to report on any deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. The Crook County Commissioners will now leave executive session under ORS 192-6602A to consider the employment of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent. Representatives of the news media designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All the members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report any deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of session as previously announced. No decision may be made in the executive session. At the end of the executive session, return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. Now, I noticed you've been putting them back, so I appreciate that.
Yes, and I took the black one.
All right, you got a
Commissioners, on
budget
the-
for us?
On the 2A, our only executive topic, I'd recommend a motion to delegate authority to Assistant County Counsel John Eisler to prepare and deliver an offer letter to the county manager candidate as discussed in executive session and to negotiate a contract for employment.
So move.
I second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect.
Okay, anything else before we adjourn? Adjourned.
What am I doing?